Infinite ammo.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the IAS podcast. I am your host, Renegade Operative, and today we will be doing a discussion on movie tie-in games. I'm going to get to my panel really quickly. First, we have Mr. Bane for you.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Doing good, doing good. Next, we have Sonic Kick.
Yo, what's up? I'm in Hawaii for a little bit. That's fun. Yay.
Rub it in.
It's rub it in, but I've been doing a lot of vacationing for a bit, but yeah.
He's having a lot of sex with coconuts, so
Yeah, basically.
I mean, at least he's not, on the street saying canned coochie.
I don't know what variety of Spanish that was, but all right, let's move on to
That
the
was
next
me trying to be
guest.
nasally.
Next, we have Llama.
I hope.
Next,
That
we
means hello in
have
British.
Next, we have Captain Chaos.
Nope.
And we have Cryo Gaming.
Hey guys.
All right, so we're gonna get into the first question here. Let me pull up the documents. What are your overall thoughts on the premise of movie tie-in games being stagnant in that particular part of the gaming industry? Cite your thoughts on why this was the ultimate conclusion for a while. Who
I
wants to
feel
go
like it-
first.
I actually kind of feel like it's a little bit bullshit.
Oh, really? Explain why.
I mean,
so.
a lot of people, because a lot of people say that movie tie-in games are like, really can be shit. It can be dull, but I disagree with that to an extent. Sure, yeah, there's been some movie tie-in games that's been really shit, but in the past, when movie tie-in games were really a thing, like for example, like Iron Man, like the first Iron Man game and stuff like that, those games were like really good, like pretty much really almost well made. But it's like nowadays it's like the story for the movie tie-ins is just awful, and it's like it's not well done like it used to be.
Okay, here's my opinion on that. I think they have not been as prevalent as they were in the PS3 era, PS2 era, PS1. PS4 is like there has barely been any movie tie-in games. And I think the main reason why they are kind of stagnant right now is because developers know that these games are big budgeted. They take a lot of money to make, and the general criteria behind that is when you have a movie tie-in game, you must release it near the movie in order to generate more sales. Sometimes, considering game development, it takes like 2 or 3 years, so you're not gonna pump out like a movie tie-in game in like under a year and expect it to be really good.
From what I can tell, developing a game, it doesn't take really all that much money to do, unless it's you're actually not buying, but like temporarily buying a license from a movie to actually do that. Because buying a license, that actually takes, I think, more money, especially if the original owners of said property actually wants a lot of money.
Sometimes that's the case though. Like sometimes these.
Because I've seen seen that happen a lot. That's why.
Yeah, sometimes these movie publishers, they do want a big cut of what's going on with the game.
Especially if it's one of those series or franchises that's like really like popular. You know what I mean? Movies that's like have a strong fan base, stuff like that.
I mean, it all depends on, like, in my opinion, it all depends on. It's because like Redden was saying, it's less common now because I feel like the devs are actually like, not really devs, but the movie companies are realizing, hey, you can't just push out a mediocre game and expect more sales. They can just make more money off the freaking movie, put more effort into the movie itself, than rather just, oh, here's this tie-in game that we just whatever company release. But sometimes there are some cases, especially back in the PS2 era, where you had like really really high budgeted movie games, or quote unquote high budgeted, or like ones that the developers and the movie producers cared about. For example, I'm gonna bring up the original Cars game, which actually brought back had the original voice actors and expanded on the worlds. Yeah, of Cars of what have you, but and that spawned off into its own series. But it just all depends on who's actually producing it, you know, like who's behind it.
I got an opinion on this. I think, it takes so long to develop a game compared to shooting a film. Pre-production for a film usually does not last anywhere near as long as the development cycle for a game. And usually the games are made right when they enter production on the film. So you've got about a year to make a full-fledged game. And you're on a rush.
Yeah, crunch hours, yeah.
Yeah, it's not, it usually does not end very well. I think the worst movie tie-in game I ever played personally was I'd have to say the Batman Forever arcade game they made.
Bane, that's a later question.
I know, I'm just saying. It was rushed. It was built in literally 4 months.
Speaking of Batman, I remember there was a Batman Returns game. I think it was on the SNES. I played that when I was a kid. I actually thought it was okay.
What about Dark Tomorrow, guys? Batman Dark Tomorrow.
There is, yeah.
There was the Batman Begins movie tie-in game, which was terrible.
There was a Catwoman one. There's a lot of superhero tie-in
one,
games.
Batman got the worst end of the stick. I think there's also like a Batman Beyond Return of the Joker game for PS1, and it wasn't that great. So once we get to the bad section, there's a lot of Batman games to mention.
Oh yeah.
But does anyone have any more lingering thoughts on question number 1?
Yeah, I think that while you do have like a lot of problem with the actual making of the games, I think that there is a bit of like, disparity between the way movies are told and the way games are told. So like, the movie's fairly short and it's like 4 hours maximum. Like really long movies. And like it tells a definitive story like beginning to end. Like the people who make it control the pacing. So which can be hard to translate to a game very well. Like because games are usually much longer and you can't control the pacing, the player controls the pacing. And I think that with certain like movie concepts, I can see it like, people just not knowing how to translate the movie into the actual game. I think that like the more successful attempts at this are like ones that either sort of take place in the movie's universe but don't exactly use the story, like they have their own story,
Like that Matrix game that's really bad, but actually did something with it though.
Path of
I
Neo?
like that game.
Not Path of Neo. It was
Enter the Matrix.
Enter the Matrix. Yeah.
I thought Enter the Matrix was like based on Matrix Reloaded.
I mean, somewhat. It does coincide with some of the events from Matrix Reloaded, but it's from the perspective of Niobe and Ghost, who are two other characters from Matrix who aren't really focused on in the movies, as far as I understand, and the game was mainly about them.
Yeah, I was thinking of Path of Neo because that was when it really kind of jumped the shark with the Agent Smith giant stone golem that you fight at the end of the game, and I'm like, this is not canon to Revolutions. So yeah, I just thought that was funny.
I'll bring that up. I'll bring up Matrix in number 2 more, but yeah.
So anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, like 9 times out of 10, movie tie-in games aren't very good, and I think it's like Bane mentioned before. I think a lot of the reason for that is because it has to. They have to release it around the time alongside the movie, or not long after the movie. So I feel like they're probably on like they're basically being rushed to try to put out a game, and that could be a lot of the reason for why it's not very good most of the time. But there are the rare exceptions. I just think that it's mostly happens to be that the games aren't very good, and I would say the reputation they have is it is pretty justifiable for why it has that reputation, because most of these games aren't like, as we can see, they're not very good. And I don't know, the ones that do happen to be good, are like, I think there's just not that many of them. I would like to see more movie tie-in games that are decent, but I just think it depends on it. I think it also partially depends on who's working on it. Like if you can get a competent developer or something to work on these games, that could be a pretty big benefit to the game itself. But I think most of the time, the developers they probably get to work on these games are, and mainly they do it to save money, I would assume, are probably developers that nobody's ever heard of or something. So that could also account for why the games are usually not very good either. So that's my whole opinion on it.
I agree. Like the guys who developed Iron Man VR, they are a developer called Camouflage, and I've never.
Insomniac.
No, they aren't Insomniac. It's a developer called Camouflage, and I had never heard of this developer before. It's like sometimes they get these really obscure, no-name developers to work on these projects, and that's also a reason why it doesn't contribute, because they don't have the resume or the experience to make this good movie tie-in game. That's why I like when people go out of their way to make like movie tie-in games, but they have like big developers backing them. They usually turn out to be great games. I know there's like a shot in the dark occasionally with like Rocksteady, because before they made like the Batman series, they made some first-person shooter on the PS2, and it wasn't really super great. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to mention, that until you said there's shot in the dark. So I'm like, yeah, there are a lot of shots in the dark stories. Heavy Iron with SpongeBob and all that have you,
Yeah, everyone's excited for the new SpongeBob title that's coming out. But we're going to move on to number 2. So, Bane, could you read that off, please?
What is your favorite and least favorite movie tie-in games, and please explain why in detail. I'm going to just run through this really fast because nobody's going to say what I liked. Best movie tie-in game, the Home Improvement game.
Improvement?
It's not even
Look,
yeah, but
hey man, sometimes you gotta break the rules a little bit. Least favorite movie tie-in: the first X-Files video game on the. I know it's television, but still it counts. Fuck you. That game was so disappointing. Good idea, bad execution.
Oh,
I got it.
I see aliens, colonial marines on here. Oh my god.
It's like
that's not a game.
It's not a game.
It doesn't exist. It just kind of disappeared. I'm gonna say some pretty obvious ones. I'm gonna say the classic Alien versus Predator games. Because you have the option to play as the alien, the predator, and the marine, and like they were really solid old first-person shooters. Yeah. I'm also gonna say the Ghostbusters video game, because big fan of Ghostbusters. The one with it's basically Ghostbusters 3, and of course,
2009.
This is probably gonna be Ren's favorite, but Spider-Man 2.
Yes, that game is amazing.
Do you want me to say least favorite, or should I wait on that?
Say least favorite now, because we're gonna take turns.
Okay, least favorite. I was gonna mention the Matrix games, both Enter the Matrix and Path of Neo. Because Enter the Matrix, yeah, sure, it focuses on the the different other people, but it's also just a really bad game in general. But it's kind of a more of a fun entry to put in there, because it's also like really, really stupid. There's even like a secret 2-player fighting game in it. So
that's weird. I heard that it's also like Enter the Matrix is one of the most expensive video games made. So it's just weird how it just came out so disappointing, but that's what happens when you have like no vision behind it,
Yeah. And Path of Neo is just a goddamn trip. It's just so stupid. It's so stupidly funny.
Let's see.
Of how much of a train wreck it is.
Well, for me, with favorites, this is going to be a little bit because this game in particular, not a lot of people liked. There were a couple things that that a lot of people had issues with, but 007 Quantum of Solace. When I was a kid, I actually played that a lot on PlayStation 2, and I liked how it sort of tied in with Casino Royale and then Quantum of Solace. I did like that aspect of it. There were issues with it. Sometimes the camera wouldn't cooperate. Sometimes it felt like frames dropped a little bit, but other than that, it was decent.
Oh yeah, the PS2 version was very decent. Not sure about the HD
Yeah.
ones.
Let's see. My second favorite is Ghostbusters, the video game, as well. That was just absolute gold for me. That absolutely won my heart. I love the Ghostbusters franchise, and so playing that game, it was just absolutely wonderful. As soon as the 2016 movie came out, I'm like, nope, I'm gonna play this game instead. that's my Ghostbusters right here. And let's see, for my least ones is Ghostbusters 2016 game, and that's supposed to tie into Ghostbusters 2016, following the events of that movie. That's when this game takes place, and I hated how it looked. They fucking made the proton packs look like shooters. It looked like they were just like shooting like proton cum just everywhere. Just saying. Like literally, it's just going. It's like what the fuck? That's not Ghostbusters. What the hell is this shit?
That is, I think that scarred my childhood a little bit, but continue.
Oh yeah, and I also forgot about my favorite. I forgot one favorite. Also Spider-Man 2. I did love Spider-Man 2 a lot. The web slinging alone was just absolutely wonderful. And then my least favorite is actually Batman Begins. There was a lot of issues, a lot of frame drops, a lot of issues with the combat, in my opinion. And sometimes the Batmobile sections would just be like, what the fuck is this? Like, I didn't understand it at all. And plus it wasn't actually necessarily visually appealing, in my opinion. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on my least favorite and favorite games.
I'm gonna try to get through mine really quick. So, the first two that I really like is Scarface: The World Is Yours and Godfather. Two great GTA clones if you're looking to get into them. I love that Scarface tried to do this little what if story. What if Tony Montana didn't die and survived the mansion skirmish? Good shooting mechanics as well. I like Spider-Man 2. That's a great superhero game, a great basis for what will ultimately become Spider-Man PS4. What else? I thought the Hulk 2003 video game was decent as well.
God damn it, he took one.
Is that Ultimate Destruction?
No, it's
No.
the original.
It's the tie-in from the original.
It's tied to that awful movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let me think. I think one more that was really great. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. There was like one really good clone that they had. I just can't remember it right now. I guess I'll go to my least favorites then. So least favorite, I definitely think that. Oh yeah, I remember now. Batman on the NES was super good. If people haven't played it, please play it. It's a good platformer. But least favorite, Aliens Colonial Marines. That game is trash. Do not play it. Do not pick it up. Burn it on site.
Oh shit!
sorry, it's
I
not a
forgot
video game?
one.
Good.
I forgot one. This one's a
Goddamn.
classic, all-time fail. E.T.
Oh yeah,
That's a
great game.
cop out. That's
Wasn't-
a cop out.
Wasn't that game like buried somewhere in a landfill?
Yes.
Yep.
Actually, there
Along
was a
with
little
other
documentary
games.
about it. Yeah.
New Mexico.
Tons of them were buried in a New Mexico landfill. There's a really good documentary called Atari Game Over about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You can see him unearth it.
I know another game I played that was like super old is the Back to the Future game on the NES. I'm not saying it because AVGN played it. It's because I actually owned it, and I was thinking, what the hell is this game? It's some sort of side-scrolling, race against time, weird amalgamation that barely resembles the movie. And I just remember hating it. It was one of the worst NES games I've ever owned in a lifetime. And I think I have one more that's like just really dumb and just stupid all around. Oh yeah. Bad Boys Miami Takedown, because you gotta have Will Smith and Martin Lawrence actually not be Will Smith and Martin Lawrence and say the most weirdest lines ever. And the graphics of that game just look like a hippopotamus's ass or something. I don't know what they were doing with that game.
What are you doing looking at hippopotamus's ass?
Look, that's just the perfect way to explain that game. It looks terrible, dude.
Yeah.
I'll go through mine real quick. So yeah, like Red mentioned, I really liked the Hulk game, and it's mainly a lot of these are due to nostalgia, I'll be honest, because there's a few I actually did enjoy. I know Sonic Kick was talking all kinds of shit about Enter the Matrix and Path to Neo and all that, but and this is my nostalgia talking, I really enjoyed both of those games when I was a kid. So I mean, I'm probably gonna go, if I went back at it and played it now, I'd probably have a very different opinion. But I know when I was a kid, I really enjoyed it. And then an obvious choice would also be Spider-Man 2. Like Ren said, which is exactly what I was gonna say. Actually, is it was a fun sandbox type of game, and it was pretty much the basis for what we could expect for Spider-Man PS4. So I thought that was also a really good game. And I also another game I enjoyed as a kid that was also kind of like I guess you would say it was a movie. I think it was Batman Returns. I could be wrong, but it was a game on the SNES. It was a Batman game, and it was a side scroller, sort of like a beat 'em up. I really liked that game too. Another weird game was the Star Wars game on the SNES. It was basically just a side scroller, and but it was super hard. Like it was a really hard game, surprisingly. But you played different characters, like you'd play Luke, and then you played Han, and it basically went through the events of A New Hope, I think. Least favorite, I think people have already mentioned, Colonial Marines. I just think was just a massive disappointment because everybody was expecting it to be like a just great game, but it went through development hell and it just came out just terrible.
People were making
Bitchford.
Yeah. Another game people haven't mentioned though, like is and it's mainly because of the game it's tied to, but this is also technically a movie tie-in. I think it was what was it? The GoldenEye game on PS2. I forget what the fuck it was called. I had some fun with it, but it was like it was just not nearly as good as GoldenEye on the.
Don't you mean is it like? Are you talking?
It was the one where you
fire?
could. No. It was tied to GoldenEye, the original GoldenEye game, but I think you played actually as GoldenEye himself. I could be wrong.
You're talking about Road Agent. I didn't like that one.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed with that one, mainly because I was hoping it would be about as good as the original GoldenEye, but I was kind of disappointed. I wouldn't say it's terrible. I mean, you could have fun with it, but it's not. I don't know. I just didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. But yeah, that's pretty much my list.
I missed one. I'm now thinking of it. Lego Star Wars. Lego Star Wars. I love the Lego Star Wars games. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's a few honorable mentions. Like I didn't mention X-Men Origins Wolverine Uncaged. That game was fucking great. And also there's a lot of I think Terminator 2 the arcade was really fun as well, along with Die Hard Arcade. The Arnold noise.
You should be playing my game. What are you doing?
Here's what I'll say. I forgot one surprisingly really good game, but nobody ever talks about. Wanted Weapons of Fate.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Seen a review on that actually. People just said it's dumb fun.
It's so much fun.
Isn't it pretty much like a Max Payne style, like third-person shooter?
The way I'll say it is, it only becomes that way when you spin the bullet.
Yeah.
I recommend also.
It reminds me of
it's kinda
Sniper
Dark,
Elite, I think.
It's kind of like Dark Sector. You ever played that game?
Yeah, I actually did play Dark Sector.
Fucking
Dark
love
Sector is a
it.
pretty good game, though. Like, I feel like it's a game that gets overlooked.
I know everybody loves Warframe, but I would give my middle nut for a sequel to Dark Sector.
Or just a remaster of it or something. Yeah.
Well, it's backwards
side note-
compatible, but
Well, it's not on PC, so it doesn't count.
it is on PC. It's just a
Oh,
PC
it
port
is?
sucks
Oh,
dicks.
well, it's just not on
Uh,
Steam, I guess.
But before we
Is it? I couldn't.
let me look
I
before
feel
we
like
move on.
Let me look.
um,
Continue. Sorry, guys.
Oh no, you're fine. Before we move on, side note about that Wanted game. I remember correctly. There's actually 2 Easter eggs from the movie. You can kill
never mind, it
your
is.
ex-girlfriend, or you can kill your boss.
Oh yeah.
Oh fuck! There's one I forgot to mention. The Warriors from Rockstar Games.
Oh yeah, I
Dude,
heard a lot of good things about that game.
It's awesome. It's like an open, it's like an open beat 'em up. You can smash people in the face with bricks, pipes, stab them. It's basically like beat 'em up GTA. If you like that sort of style, you want to go around and commit crimes and stuff like that, you can do it in that game while having like these high scale brawls. I really loved it.
Yeah, it's weird because like not only did I actually quite like both the Matrix games, but I also thought that the Spider-Man 2 game was kind of overrated.
Really? Now?
Yeah,
That would
I
be
mean,
an unpopular opinion in here.
yeah, exactly. But like, I mean, granted, the swinging is good, but it's like it's the only really good part of the game. I mean,
I thought the
combat-
combat was okay. It does get a little bit too button mashy. I get that, but still.
yeah, and also the missions. The missions was not good. Like it was the same 5 missions, and the balloon missions were the worst. The balloon missions made me hate life.
You could be a dick and just pop the kid's balloon and just
Yeah.
swing away. I always love doing that.
Yeah, it's eventually just what I always did. But my actual favorite, I couldn't really like. There was 3 of them that I couldn't really choose between. But the Thing, 2002 movie that was based on the 1982 movie. It was sort of like a sequel, and it was like this, like an actual like horror game that is entirely like original, but sort of based in the universe.
Oh yeah, I remember that because in it there was a gun pointed at somebody. They would consider that as you being hostile, and they pretty much would slowly not trust you. Pretty much just like the movie.
Yeah,
That was one neat little thing. I think John Carpenter worked on it too. He said he had fun.
Yeah, there was a whole trust system. The other one's a bit of a weird. The second one's a bit of a weird one, but Ice Age 2: The Meltdown. I played that game so much as a kid. Like it was the way is you played Scrat for some reason, and it was like this little collectathon, but it was like an actually really solid collectathon. And yeah, okay, Spider-Man 2 is overrated, but I can't, I stand Ice Age 2, the video game.
That's bold.
Yeah. That's my hot take of the day. But yeah, the last like favorite one of mine would be like the King Kong first-person shooter.
Oh shit! I completely forgot about that one.
Yeah,
That was really good, actually.
It was really good. Like I think it had like a much better atmosphere than the actual movie, and I'd say that I preferred the first person aspect to it. But like the Kong, like you actually play like a massive gorilla, and the fact that like they had like 2 very disparate game styles like just in one game, like I think he gave it a really nice variety. And but I do have some sort of bittersweet memories for it, because even though I like originally owned it for the PlayStation 2, I actually bought it again for the PC, but when I tried installing it, it my computer just shat itself, and I had to reinstall Windows, and I lost like every single like Steam game I had downloaded, and all my save games and stuff like that. So, we've got. I have a bittersweet relationship with that game.
Okay, so really quickly, there is 2 games that I'm surprised did not get mentioned. Well, one to a lesser extent for disappointing, but there apparently was Saw video games.
Yeah, they were mediocre.
Yeah, there were. Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
one of them was published by Konami and like was really bad, if I'm aware.
Both of them were published by Konami.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the traps just just kill you on the spot, and it's really super dumb.
No, somewhere it didn't kill you on the spot, but
I heard that the first one was actually really good, but then the second one, Flesh and Blood, was not good.
I did play some of the first one. It's actually okay from what I played of it, but I heard the second one was terrible.
I saw XPlay review it, and I swear they were so pissed at the shotgun wires that it was ridiculous. Because it's this weird, like, quick time event, and if you don't do it on time, your head just gets blown off.
I remember there is actually a gameplay mechanic of you digging around in a toilet full of needles or something like that. I remember that from the game.
Yeah. And there's a good one that people have not mentioned, and that's Chronicles of Riddick: Escape from Butcher Bay.
Oh,
I don't
that's a
consider
good
that a movie
one.
tie-in though.
It's a fantastic game though. That's like
I know.
I played it
consider better than the movies. I consider the movies a game, like a tie-in to the game.
I only seen Pitch Black. I haven't seen Chronicles of Riddick, but I can tell you, like, from my play,
Just stop.
just the interactions, just stop because it's a terrible movie.
It's not a terrible movie, but it's nowhere near as good as the game or as good as Pitch Black.
Actually.
That sounds disappointing. So I'm gonna
Pitch
avoid
Black,
that.
amazing film. Games, amazing. Chronicles of Riddick and Riddick,
Well,
they're serviceable.
well, I mean, Ren, this is Bane that you're talking to, so
I believe
I've seen
believe
Chronicles of Riddick. It's not as good as Pitch Black, but it's not the same kind of movie
Yeah.
as Pitch Black, though. To be fair,
Yeah.
Pitch Black is a horror movie, and Chronicles of Riddick is more of a sci-fi action type of movie.
horror.
I'm just saying, in like terms of quality, the separate everything after Pitch Black except for the games.
You can essentially say like the sort of franchise that like perfected this type of stuff with action and horror, like interchanging. It's like Aliens and Terminator. Like Aliens 1 and 2 is great, even though they're different movies, and Terminator is like the same.
So Terminator stops at 2 in my mind. Same with
Yes,
Alien.
it does. Yes.
Even if I kind of like Alien 3's assembly cut, I'm gonna just say Alien 1 and Aliens, great films. There's nothing else past them.
That's how the comic books treated it too. They don't really follow the continuity of Alien 3. They mostly just stop after Aliens and then go from there.
That's how every smart like extra part of that universe works. It's like, oh hey, there's Alien and Aliens.
And that's it. It's like we're done.
God, I wish Prometheus wasn't a thing.
Well, that's a whole nother story entirely. So I think we should move on to question number 3. So, Sonic Kid, can you please read that off?
Yeah, sure. An actor lending his or her likeness is common in some aspects to create authenticity. However, these deals don't always fall through. Does it bother you when an actor doesn't lend his or her likeness or voice to a movie tie-in game?
It depends on what it is, to be honest. Like what the game is and what it's trying to tie into. Like, for example, because yeah, call me a fanboy of the Ghostbusters video game, but for example, if Ghostbusters is a video game, it did not have like the original like actors come back, and you know the likeness wasn't all there, and these are the same characters that were in the first 2 Ghostbusters films, it would not do well at all.
It would be very awkward.
It would flop.
Yeah, I think it
Well,
does like really matter as to how connected the actor is to the character.
Even then, you had the Bourne game where it's like, fucking Matt Damon, the goddamn boomer, was like, video games are violent. I don't want to be a part of this.
It does feel like I played that game too. You're talking about Born Conspiracy, right?
Yes.
It does feel like, you know, even if Matt Damon did not lend his likeness or voice there, it feels like in that regard it doesn't really matter, because I feel like Bourne is not a super popular character or tied. He's like not tied to Matt Damon is not tied to the character like that much, and you can sort of see the non-likeness of it.
I don't know. I always see that, like, I always see him as that character.
It's like
That's
okay.
exactly what I mean. Like, I could see something that didn't have Matt Damon as Jason Bourne.
Matt Jason.
Still, yeah, I could see something that didn't have Matt Damon as him, and I'd still be like, Jesus Christ, it's Jason Bourne, because I don't really care. But like, yeah, if it was Venkman, it's got to be.
Yeah.
Okay, let me put a like better example. Okay, if they made like a John Wick game or something, and they decided not to use Keanu Reeves, I wouldn't be able to see it. Like, I wouldn't be able to see some Joe
I think
Smo.
they did make a John Wick game, didn't they?
They did,
but it's got the
Yeah, it's
likeness.
called
it has the
Fortnite.
likeness.
No, Fortnite didn't have a likeness, and it was kind of eerie. But now
Yeah.
they got it, actually, which is one thing I'll give props to.
The weird John Hex game, they even use likeness as well. But
Yep.
if they didn't, for example, I just wouldn't be able to see it compared to like some other roles where it's like, okay, yeah, the actor is good in the role, he does the character, you know, a little bit justice, we can believe it. But if they replace him entirely, and they kind of did with the Bourne series, and it didn't turn out too well. But if they replace them in video game format, it really doesn't bother me as much as certain people.
Yeah.
It's like
for me,
there's
it
some
just depends
characters.
on them.
Good.
Oh, I was just gonna say it just depends on like what I said before. It depends on what the game is trying to tie in, like what movie the game is trying to, you know, tie into. Like, for example, if I've grown accustomed to something like, for example, let's just say Batman Begins, that game, because that game pretty much nearly all of the cast from the film came back to reprise the roles.
Mhm.
And if, for example, if Batman Begins, that game did something like Blade and Blade 2 did, those video games where they had complete different actors and stuff like that, I'm like, nah. It's like, I can't believe it. Either the actor has to kind of sort of sound like that actor that played as the character in the movie, or it's just a no for me. I have to believe it. If it's going to be a tie-in, then it has to at least give me the same feeling that, you know, a movie would. I
have to sort of say there's like some exceptions to that rule, because there can be
there is.
Like Scarface, for example, they use Al Pacino's likeness, but they don't use his voice, but the actor sounds very similar to his voice work.
Because I think Al Pacino actually handpicked him, I think.
Yeah, and also that's the only game he gave his likeness to. For Godfather, he didn't. So basically, I forget his full name. I know he's Corleone something, Michael Corleone. He is completely different in likeness and voice. So it really just depends. I think the worst example I have seen so far is The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where Peter Parker looks just fucking ugly. Like, it's really hard to explain it. I saw an image somewhere, and he just does not look good at all.
All I have to say about that, to whoever designed that and everything like that, is just, you looking cockroach.
So, anyone else want to go on this question?
I mean, it does bother me, but I get why like some companies can't get said like this or actor, because sometimes it costs too much. Because, you know, y'all know for Shrek 2, they basically paid like $5 million just to get back like Eddie Murphy and Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy and Cameron Diaz, if I'm aware. So like, if they can't get them for like for like other actors or certain actors for different games, I completely understand. But you also have cases like what's been recently happening with Yakuza, when you do use an actor's likeness and their face,
they can get involved with something and then have to end up being taken out of the game, and you'll have cases like what happened with Judgment and what have you. So it just kind of, I'm always in the case of it's take basis by basis, but if you want to for a movie game, probably best to have them, but if you can't, people will understand.
Yeah, I agree. Because like when people were asking, "Oh, why is Robert Downey Jr. not Iron Man in the Iron Man games?" I'm like, I swear that man costs like $100 million to use. So you could imagine like they're trying to do this little movie tie-in game, and they gotta use half their budget to use this guy. It's like sometimes it's not even worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what character?
Yeah,
Robert Downey
Iron
Jr.
Man.
just using him as Iron Man. His asking price as a celebrity is about $100 million.
yeah. I mean, some like live action actors as well do not that like being like an actor in like live action does not always translate to being a good voice actor.
Yeah.
So I think in some cases like it's not even going to be worth it. Like especially when it's a movie tie-in game, because like the actors will be there as part of a contract, and they just they're not going to be necessarily as interested. It's just going to be a job to them as opposed to the actual movie.
Yeah, because that's why most of the time with movie tie-in games, the act and reprising their roles, they've actually had voiceover roles in the past, so they know exactly what to do and how to actually say the lines right. Because in a voice actor's mind, it's like just pretend I'm on set. That's all that it is.
Yeah, and with a video game as well, that's like even more like intense than say an animated movie. It's not really the same experience because not only do you usually have more dialogue, especially if like the game has dialogue trees or whatnot, but like you also have to record like every sound the character makes, like every grunt or scream, or like if you're playing like a character that can die and you just have to be screaming for ages on end, that can actually like really hurt and not be a pleasant experience.
Because Gary Oldman, he actually had to scream a lot because of World at War. Dimitri!
Well, World at War, Black Ops 1, fuck. It's almost
it was more of World at War than Black Ops, to be honest, because
there he was just screaming Steiner.
Stop.
Kravchenko.
Okay, hold on. I'm kind of glad this point was brought up, because I did think that Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 2, in terms of the video game, he sounded bored. But this is why the gaming industry is also trying to incorporate more mocap into the experience, so people can act it out as opposed to just being in the sound booth. So now it's like you can also act it out while being mobile and active, and they will capture your voice work and your recordings and your movement at the same time. So I do think that it's a later question too. If they decide to bring back like big movie tie-in games, they might change like the paradigm for actors in terms of like just professional acting.
Because that reminds me of two instances. Was when Antonio Banderas did Puss in Boots. There was behind the scenes footage of basically him literally acting out what Puss in Boots would be doing. Like if he was fighting someone or drawing his sword, he would literally act that out. So that way it would capture that in his voice. And the second thing about performances can be stale sometimes, and in the booth, especially like if it's an animated show or TV, not TV, movie. It reminds me of this thing that I found out. I think it was like a month ago. This new Pixar movie that Tom Holland and Chris Pratt are actually in together. I believe Chris or Tom actually said that they actually bought both of them into the same recording booth together, so that way,
Sounds
it would
natural.
work
Kind of
out.
flows.
Yeah, because since they've obviously, they've worked together, they hung out together, so it's like they both know each other. So that way, it gives a better performance than if it was just them, by themselves.
Yeah.
'Cause I
Plus,
think
with
in the movie they're
motion-
like friends. I think so.
Yeah, I
That
just
works
think all
out
that's
really good.
all that's gonna change in the future if they decide to do that. But if the actor is too expensive, then it might be, your shit out of luck. But we gotta move on to the next one, which I think is number 4. So Bane, could you read that off, please?
Name a film franchise that is doing something deserving of a new AAA movie tie-in experiences. It can be an IP that's never been done before. One that's already been done before. It's a movie tie-in game. I'm just gonna say it, with the fact that they've turned into just weird, fucking nutty action films instead of racing movies. Fast and Furious.
New Fast and Furious. Yeah, I can. Yeah, maybe I can see that because like Need for Speed is not popular as it used to be. So
Well, there was a Forza Horizon like spin-off game they made free, which was pretty decent for being free, but god damn it, man, I just want a fucking racing game where I jump over fucking submarines and chase down fucking bank vaults and shit.
Fun fact, I think the arcade of Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift was actually released on the Wii, but guess what?
Oh,
It was ported in a really terrible way, and they named it. They called it. They had it as a cruising game. I'm not even joking.
Oh my god.
To be honest, there's
Like
two.
cruise ships?
Yeah, like Cruising USA. it's funny.
Huh.
There's 2 games. Oh well, not 2 games. 2
Just look
series
up Cruising
I would
on
love-
Wii.
I would love to see these 2 series actually have their own thing. First, to be honest, I would want to see a Fast and Furious game, however, open world. You could
So
choose
like
to do
the
racing,
crew?
or you could like do racing. Side missions, blah blah blah, small little jobs. But then you can also do, heist. That could be like a little part of the story.
Yeah.
While also racing as well, because I mean, Fast and Furious, it kind of took a wide turn. Before it used to be all about racing, then all of a sudden it turned into nothing but like heist shit.
Dude, Fast and Furious is so weird as a series now. They're dealing with biological weapons and Hobbs and Shaw, and I'm like, okay.
Okay, I do want to go
Oh,
see Hobbs and Shaw because of how stupid it looks.
It looks
I-
like fun.
I
Black
really do
Superman.
want to see
Black Superman.
But in the second series, I really want to see is actually John Wick. I want to see.
Damn it.
I want to see.
You took
I want
mine.
to see Keanu. I really want to see, especially since nowadays they use motion capture, just to have him doing all the capture work as well as the voice. Ooh, take my money, please, please.
I don't disagree with you on this.
Dude, are we still on number 3?
No, we're on number 4.
Okay.
Shit. So you took mine, which was John Wick, and I kind of want to see. Like, I know they're making a Predator game, but I kind of want to see one done with a bigger budget. I just want to hunt people in the woods, kill them, and take their spines.
Predator game, I think, isn't that going to be a multiplayer only game or something?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's gonna be
it's,
isometric multiplayer.
Hard pass.
Well,
If it's
take
good,
that with a fine. Take that with a fine grain of salt, because that's what they said about Friday the 13th. But then they added, bots. Which
I actually like the way that AVP, I think it was 2013, or 2011.
The one done by Sega.
Yeah, like I like the way that they did it, but I think it could have been executed
Rebellion?
a little bit better. The way the Predator campaign.
Oh yeah, I remember the 2010 game. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
That was good.
It was fun, but the Predator was unfairly balanced. Like he was overpowered. Like he was, like the humans and the xenomorphs couldn't really do much against them. in the multiplayer sessions.
Also, Cryo, I know you said that they might tend to lie about the stuff they're doing with the Predator game, but this is the same developers.
Not lie, but end up like saying, "Oh, you know what? Let's go ahead and add a little bit of single player into it." That's what I meant.
I'm not a huge fan of isometric stuff for the most part. I mean, there are some exceptions, but
I don't.
To me,
it's
weird
overdone.
because it's the same developer that did Friday the 13th. So I don't know. I don't even think they. Yeah, it's the same developer.
Do you mean isometric or asymmetric?
Isometric.
Whoa.
like top down.
Yeah, they said top down specifically.
Huh.
But it is the same developers who did Friday the 13th, and they did not add a single player campaign. So I don't know. It's hard to really call that one.
What the fuck?
It probably will just be multiplayer if it's the same devs as Friday the 13th, because that doesn't even have a single player campaign.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, it did, sort of.
It did?
Is it like missions? Yeah.
Oh, you mean like
really?
You mean like practice
Technically,
stuff, right? Or
no.
What do you mean?
No, it's actually like stuff they took out of the films.
Huh.
Okay, interesting.
And it's actually pretty fun. It's actually pretty fun. They referenced a lot of the movies in those little mini stories.
Shit. Now I think about horror slashers. Maybe I could do something with
you guys
Halloween.
play Friday the 13th on the NES?
I have actually. That's the one where you could throw like rocks at Jason.
Jason has a purple suit for some reason.
He's purple and blue. He has blue skin. It's so fucking weird.
He randomly shows up in the cabins. You go in there,
I think
like,
speaking of Friday the 13th, I like the newer game, but the problem is that the developers abandoned it. So, you know.
Wait a minute.
I'm trying to think of
fucking hell.
I'm trying to think of developers or film franchises that I want games of. I wouldn't mind another Matrix if done right. I think that has like, because the Matrix is essentially like a video game, so they could do something right if they do it correctly.
Hasn't Rocksteady been like hinting of going back to the Batman games or something like I think it might have been Batman Beyond, or I'm not sure what it was they were talking about. They said they might go back to that, so I don't know.
Supposedly they're working on a completely new IP from what we've been told, but the developers behind Arkham Origins, WB Montreal, they said they might be working on a new Batman game called Arkham Crisis.
Oh,
that's great.
Watch it be VR. Anyways, yeah, I don't know honestly what game, but well, I guess speaking of like superhero stuff, I mean obviously we've gotten a lot of DC Marvel characters and stuff like that, but I don't know, this might be a weird one, but what about the Crow? What if we had one about the Crow?
The Crow? That'd be interesting. Yeah, that'd be very interesting.
But actually, no, that would actually, come to think of it, that might not be a good idea, because considering the Crow's character, he can't die, so I don't know what they would do with that.
What about a stupidly good kick-ass game?
I thought that was kick-ass games.
They did have a kick-ass game, I think, but
I mean, like a good one.
Oh, good one. Oh, I see.
That were terrible.
You know, I would throw a wild card. I would say a new Watchmen. I did like The End Is Nigh. I thought it was pretty good.
Oh, the Watchmen game was actually good?
Yeah. I did enjoy it. Like, a lot of people might say it's just weird, wacky, beat 'em up fun, but that's kind of the stuff I like with Watchmen, so I think that would be good if they use the characters like that. Just make it better.
Well, I think this one, I think this is probably the one I really want, though, is just get me another Alien game on the same level as Alien Isolation. A lot of people wanted to see a follow-up to that, and I don't think we're ever going to see it. I mean, we got that mobile game. I mean, and then also we have Colonial Marines. So I just want another good Alien game from that franchise. I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly the same as Isolation. It could be, you know, Colonial Marines-esque, like kind of a first-person shooter or something. But I just want a good game out of that, you know. I mean, because the last time we got one, in my opinion, at least, was Isolation, and we haven't really gotten anything about as good since then. So I would like another Aliens type game.
Yeah, this one is really, really hard for me. Anyone else want to go on this one?
I'm good.
Anyone else except Bane, the clapper? No, I'm kidding.
I'm gonna pour liquid on you.
That's illegal, sir.
Oh my God.
All right, I guess then we can move on to number 5. So can you recall any instances where a movie tie-in experience did things that were portrayed better in the video game than the movie it was based on? X-Men Origins Wolverine, play that is way better than the movie will ever be. I like when they also do like these pseudo sequels, like, and you know that the original movie or whatever does not get a follow-up, or it takes like a long time to get one, like Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
I actually like Scarface, World Is Yours. I actually like that, to be honest, because I mean, I get the ending for the movie did make sense, but to be honest, I'm like, why just end his suffering just like that? You know, why don't you just make him suffer? Because you know, first of all, spoiler, because in the game he cleans up his act. You know, he stops with the cocaine, and you know, he starts thinking, he's like, oh fuck, what did I do? I killed my brother, you know, and then he's like mourning and everything like that, and he take my own stuff, and I did it anyways. That's why I actually kind of like Scarface, The World Is Yours.
That kind of leads into number 6 too. Like,
Yeah.
when they do take liberties, how do you feel about that? Like for either pseudo sequels or when they do like what if stories based on the movie that it was done on. Anyone have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think you know, Cry brought up a good example with the Thing video game. That was an interesting way to expand on the movie and what happened after the movie, because the ending of the movie was something that people had been speculating about for years. Like, you know, did McCready survive? Did he die?
Oh yeah, because
and,
Llama mentioned a thing, and I just added on to that, saying that I remember that 'cause they had a trust system, which I actually liked, because that was literally the movie in a nutshell. It was all about, you know, trust.
Yeah, right. So you pretty much find out too in this game what happens to him. So I mean, like, and it also kind of goes over what happened, you know, and also, you know, like you said, your teammates can turn on you if you if they become paranoid enough, which was a theme in the movie and it's also in the game.
Yep.
So I think it was good that they carried that over. But like in terms of like games, movie tie-in games that I thought was actually better than the movie, I really can't think of any. I mean, like the best I think we can hope for is that the game actually ends up being good, and maybe like expanding on things from the movie. Maybe you could argue. I mean, I guess maybe you could argue the Riddick games, but that's all I could really think of.
Yeah, I have to agree. Like, just the notion in general of the movie tie-in game filling in the gaps and not answering, or well, answering all the stuff that the movie didn't answer is
like
a more
with Riddick, with Riddick, the Butcher Bay, like, you know, because Butcher Bay in the movies at least was something that was referenced a lot, and you don't really know the full extent of like what happens with Butcher Bay. So in the game, you kind of like you get the context of what happened there. So that is another, I think, example of, you know, like a game sort of expanding on the movie and what was brought up in the movie.
Yeah, I agree. When they do that, that is very interesting because, again, you have to wait a long time for sequels, and sometimes the sequels to these movies or prequels or whatever, they never happen, or they're not done like super well. I remember the Thing prequel where a lot of people was disappointed by it because it was basically raped by corporate. But it was the one chance to find out what happened to the Norwegian crew, and it really wasn't that great.
It was a rehash. That's
Yeah.
the problem. It was
Yeah.
it was literally like just a complete, like, with maybe a few slight differences, just the same movie but worse. And like you said, studio interference. The effects team from the original movie did actually do the prosthetics for I think it was 2011, the 2011 movie, but the studio just put CG over it basically. So the effects team weren't too happy about that.
I don't blame them because, again, practical effects is way better than CG. But anyone else want to elaborate before we move on to question number 7? Going once, going twice, sold to the hooker in red. So, question number 7, Sonic Kick, can you read that, please?
It is argued sometimes that the film material is hard to migrate to a video game format from a movie tie-in experience. Do you agree or disagree with that notion?
Sometimes it is.
Yeah.
I'm with Ren. It's more of just sometimes.
It depends. It really depends on what the movie is. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, if there are movies that you could easily see like as video games, and then there's a lot of movies that, like, I mean, like, because there's so many different genres of movies.
Actually, the more I think about it, you can almost adapt anything into any sort of media. It just all depends on what time. You have to do it right, and it all depends on like the person involved again. Because because I feel Resident Evil can make a really great movie because it's been done before. It's called what was that one movie with that was like it was
CG?
a more recent version of like the Resident Evil premise being done, except with like liberties being taken, in my opinion, is Don't Breathe. And everyone loves that movie. It's literally just like, oh, some people go into a house and then there's like some creepy things happening. And
I think you're being sarcastic, but I think a lot of people actually did like that movie. So I mean, that doesn't really work. But, yeah.
Yeah,
That was a Sam Raimi movie too.
No, it wasn't a Sam
it just
Raimi
all
one.
depends on who
Wasn't
you
it?
get.
I thought it.
No.
Hold on. It wasn't. I could have
No.
sworn. A second.
Any premise can be adapted, it's just as long as you do it right, you know?
Fede Alvarez. He's the guy who did the remake of Evil Dead.
Never mind. I don't know why I heard that. For some reason, I thought that was.
Yeah, I mean,
No, it was still
you have
pretty
to
well
make sure you
received.
don't. I mean, to be honest, like Chaos said, it just depends on what the movie is and everything. I mean, there is no, to be honest, there's really no, agree or disagree with this question. I mean, it shouldn't be, in my opinion.
I say sometimes
'cause-
because imagine taking the idea of Child's Play to a video game format without it being ridiculous or laughed at. I'm dead serious. Like, a killer dog going around slicing people up, and you gotta play to get out. It's.
Well,
What if you play as Chucky, though?
I was.
That's
Well, I was gonna say, what if you weren't? I mean, like, I think it would be too easy to make something just be about Chucky killing people. What if it was just you were
a survivor or something.
Yeah, like.
No, I think you can actually make it interesting by actually making Chucky you're the killer, but since Chucky it has like a lot of like quote unquote issues regards with like being small, you'll have to find like different ways to kill your kill everyone, in my opinion.
Kill
You can
someone
find
with
it
marbles
and
again.
like make some different mechanics and what have you, instead of just going up and stabbing the back or something like that. You actually have to like think and make it like a puzzle game,
That's like. It reminds me of like a hellish Catherine or something. I don't know. Like that's what it sounds. That's what it sounds like to me.
Oh no, the hell is Catherine? That would be. No, isn't Catherine technically hellish? Yeah.
It's like it's puzzle oriented, so you gotta like position yourself on the bookcase properly to like stab this guy in the head. It's like super weird, but I think it just would be ridiculous is all.
I think you can make a unique premise out of it and make something people haven't seen before,
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just thinking of an Alien Isolation style horror game where Chucky's his own AI.
Oh my god. The reboot. I'm not even gonna get into that one.
Did you see that?
No, I didn't see it, but I saw
I actually saw it.
Oh, speaking of the reboot,
It's fine, but it's just
It's decent.
It's I mean, like it's not good and it's not bad. I mean,
you can make
should've
it
been
like
its own
Overlord.
thing.
You can make it like an Overlord game. Think about it. It's if like you command all the different Chuckies too. Yeah,
That's for Cult of Chucky, though.
That's
Yeah,
what that
but
reminds
hey.
me of, yeah.
it's still a Chucky game, you know.
Yeah,
Oh god, I hated Colt.
I liked Cult. I thought it was.
yeah, Cult was fine. It was a pretty good movie.
If
I
you
mean, that's
think-
why I was like, I don't know why you're rebooting this series. If, I mean, because Cult was actually good.
And it
Well,
ended
they're
on
doing
like
a
a
TV
cliffhanger.
series.
Yeah, that's where they're gonna explain it. But let's move on to question number 8. So, is there any particular actor or actress that you would like to see in a video game? I already have my one. That's like Keanu Reeves.
Well,
What the fuck?
That's
yeah.
just yeah. I know. That's why I'm mentioning it. Like that's pretty much obvious. I have that one, and then for actress, I don't know. Like
Can we put Ellen Page in a good video game?
no,
No.
no.
Third time's a charm.
That's-
That's all I ask. It's all I want. It's all I need.
She's gonna sue more people for ogling at her naked body model in a video game. So
I don't think anybody
thing's
wants to do that.
except Bane. Bane wants to do it.
Quantum. What are you talking about? What?
See, I told you, man.
No,
This guy.
someone at PlayStation, someone at fucking PlayStation, Quantum Dream had to model her nude body. I mean, somebody at PlayStation thought, this game's great. Let's pay money for it.
Yeah, I'm glad I have not played Beyond, and I have no plans on playing it.
I bought Beyond only for Ellen Page and Willem Dafoe. Can't go wrong with Willem Dafoe.
Hey, you bought some lotion as well for that game too.
Lotion. What do you mistake me for, heathen? Nah, I grip it and rip it.
All right, then I'm moving on from that one. So actress, I don't know. Put Scarlett Johansson in something. There you go. Even though what she said recently was crazy about wanting to be a tree, but I'll go for it.
She wants to play every single role, including Taiwanese men to African American ladies. I'm
to
fine
a
with this.
tree to an animal. I was like, okay, I can. If you have that range, I can deal with that.
I can dig
It's Scarlett Johansson. I don't care who the fuck she plays, as long as we get to see her.
Yeah. Oh, so that's mine done. Anyone else?
Andy Serkis. I mean, he's already done like a bunch of motion capture stuff.
Black Superman?
Well, I don't think he'd make a good Superman. But
No, that's a joke. That's a
He
joke.
was good. He was good in Planet of the Apes. I don't know what. I mean, I suppose it'd be kind of interesting, like a Planet of the Apes game with him in it. He's like, you play the monkeys and the humans or something.
That's ironic because I believe there is a Planet of the Apes game.
Oh God, is there?
Yeah, it's called Planet of the
yeah.
Apes: Lost Frontier, I believe.
Do you actually get to play as the apes?
I think it's more of a like David Cage Telltale style story game.
Oh.
So something like that, yeah.
It'd be kind of interesting, like having a strategy game for them as well.
I can see that working. But yeah, Idris Elba, that'd be a good pick for an actor. I think he's good. He's just
So apparently this exists. I did not know.
yeah, yes, it does. Last Frontier, yes, I got it. But anyone else?
is not home.
Tom Holland, just because I like Tom Holland.
Pretty good.
I don't know. No idea.
Shit. There's so many people out there, man.
Bane, favorite porn star, go.
What if
I'm
we
not
ever got like another Red Dead game? Could we get Clint Eastwood to play in that if he
I'll
was
be right
still
back.
alive?
I'm pretty sure. Oh yeah,
That'd be
you know,
fucking
I'm,
Right
awesome.
back.
I know. I'm pretty sure a porn star was in Saints Row 3, if I'm aware.
I
I
think
can't remember.
there was one in Yakuza also.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Anari. Yeah, Anari was in Yakuza 6. That was fun.
I think
That was
actually in
great.
Yakuza 0, aren't all the photos you pick up, aren't they all just like Revore idols or whatever they're called over there. Or I think
I
porn
think
stars.
I think they might be softcorn, but like I know Anari
Yeah.
was a full on porn star, so yeah.
Well, I'd like to see Nolan North in a video game.
As Nolan North?
Yeah.
That's a
Just,
fucking description. Nolan North
why not?
as Nolan North.
This is getting enough
But didn't Deadpool do that?
They made the joke, but they did not show him on screen,
Yeah,
I believe. He was like
Yeah,
a phone call
they
reference.
did it as a joke.
Yeah,
I thought they did it
did.
as a joke. Nolan North as Deadpool talking to Nolan North as Nolan North.
Also, I think
I
they
bet that was
probably
fun.
they probably fucked with the subtitles too, so it probably did say that to some extent. So you're kind of right.
All right.
To be honest, I would say the guy that played as, I really want to see him in his own video game.
Which
I
guy?
really, the guy that played as Trevor Phillips in GTA 5.
Oh, we were talking about
Stephen Hawke.
Stephen Hawke, yeah.
Yeah. Get me to play as another psychopath. I'll be very happy. Just get him to curse a lot and just scream. Please.
I agree. That guy needs more work.
He was actually pretty good on The Walking Dead.
Didn't even know he was on The Walking Dead. That's new to me.
Yeah, he was on the seasons where Negan was actually like the threat.
I ironically, since you said Walking Dead, I was going to say John Bernthal, but he's already in Ghost Recon Breakpoint, so yeah.
Can we get him in a game that I care about?
Punisher.
Can we
please.
get him? Can we? Yeah. Can we get him as Punisher? Like another. Give us another Punisher game, please.
Yeah, I was gonna.
The original Punisher game was fucking amazing. I just want one that's like that, where you can execute people in all these different ways.
Yeah, I was
Except
gonna
for
mention.
one change. No black and white shit. No losing points.
Yeah,
During special interrogations.
I thought that was dumb
Shit.
that they sort of deducted points because you decided to blow someone's face off. It's like, it's the Punisher. He does this all day.
Yeah.
But that's another honorable mention that we didn't mention before, because that game, while it's not necessarily tied to the Punisher movie that came out, it was coinciding with it. Like, I think it came out a year later, and they got like Thomas Jane to do the voice, who was the Punisher in the movie.
Oh, nice.
Thomas Jane was a pretty good Punisher.
Yeah, I did like him as the Punisher.
Yeah, use him in more roles. Fuck it, go for it.
Oh, I think it was kind of connected, just a tiny bit. It was like, what if John Saint was still alive?
I think in general that's
And
one
then
of
it retconned a little bit of the events of the Punisher movie. I
that's
think that's what ended up happening.
yeah, that's one of the events. Jigsaw's name being John Saint, because he's named Howard Saint in the movie, but his name is originally Billy Russo, so they did make that change.
Yeah, because on the right side of his face, like scarred and like a bit burnt, because that was the side that the mine. Wait, what was it? Mine. Yeah,
He was
the
caught in,
personnel
like,
mine in his hand,
Yeah,
because his left arm was pinned, and Frank is like, you look like a strong kid. You must work out. Ever try isometrics? And he's like, this mine weighs, I think it's like 8 pounds. And he's like, not much, but try holding it with an outstretched arm.
yeah. Then he got blown
And
up.
then, yeah, because in the
And-
background, when Howard and Frank were facing each other, you just hear John in the background yelling out no, and Frank's like, both of them.
Yeah, but I believe that was his son, and in the game
Yeah,
he
it was.
sort of got caught up with a Claymore mine, so it's like some of the same references going on, just in different
Yeah.
roles and different characters.
Yeah. Yep.
But we're going to move on to next two questions. So, is there any positives and negatives that come from the premise of movie tie-in games in general? This
Less
is-
development time
Yeah.
for the negative.
rush development, they could potentially run into some licensing issues if they use certain things, and there have been those issues where licenses ran out and games had to
Yep,
be pulled,
Superman.
unfortunately. Like I know there was a Transformers game that was pulled as well from the storefront. I think it was Devastation.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, also, Ren, don't forget about Superman. Because remember that
Superman 64?
originally, well, in general, that game was supposed to be remade actually for PlayStation 1, but Titus Interactive, the licensing expired, so the game was unfortunately shelved, and the Nintendo 64 version, that was the only version we got.
I don't think PlayStation would have wanted that because that game is some pure dog doo-doo garbage.
They actually
Well-
improved most of
well,
this, the most of the game itself, if I'm aware.
Well,
Did
well,
they
I mean,
fix that? Did they fix that
but-
Superman flies through rings all day?
well, I mean, Ren, I thought Kaneki actually sent you a link to the
Shoot.
Oh, we have turbulence.
I thought Kaneki sent you and me that link to the unreleased Superman PS1 version.
He did, but I did not play it.
Oh, it was good. It was really, really good. It actually had objectives to do.
That sounds good then. I'm
And
surprised.
one big thing that I enjoyed about it was sometimes you would have these like beams of kryptonite, and you'd have to like pretty much like dodge them, and they would be like huge, like
That's-
little just like balls, pretty much big kryptonite balls coming right at you, energy balls.
I'm surprised
and
they
if you
canceled
got
that.
hit by it, yeah, if you got hit by that, if you got hit by the if you got hit by the kryptonite balls, you pretty much lost your power. You could not use cold breath. You could not use heat vision at all. Not even super strength, I think. And you couldn't fly as well.
You just fall out of the sky.
Pretty much.
Oof.
All right. Any other questions or statements before we move on to the last question?
Well, what, well, the positives, I guess, probably, maybe it has more stuff in the movie tie-in game than it did in the movie, because I've heard sometimes, wasn't there one game that ended up having like a, deleted scene into the game that was cut out of the movie?
I don't remember. I know one example I can give is X-Men Origins Wolverine, where they expanded on the Alkali Lake business, where, Logan escapes. So he actually has to go through a lot more shit as opposed to the scene in the movie being like 5 seconds before it ends. So I do like when they do expand on that stuff, and we talked about that earlier.
Because games can be longer than movies, because movies are usually like hour 40 to like at least 2 hours and maybe 5 minutes, but with games you could push it to like 3-4 hours, maybe even 5 if you have enough story to keep the audience interested. But
yeah. And they can put back those deleted scenes or deleted levels and make them new levels, so I do appreciate that. Let me think of one for negatives. I think we touched on it earlier as well, like just getting these no-name developers to sometimes work on these projects, and maybe it doesn't turn out that great if they don't have the experience. Like I think now I would not helm fucking EA of all people to do like a Star Wars licensed game. I mean, we still have to see what they do with Jedi Fallen Order, but what they did with the license, for as long as they had it, I would have got someone else or revived LucasArts. So yeah, sometimes you have to get the right studios for the job, even if it means like you're going back and reviving stuff from the grave. You have to do it.
Yep. and also for a negative for me because I didn't act. Sometimes movie tie-in stories are actually garbage, and it feels kind of not necessarily rushed, but more like they were just going, they were just being lazy in their chair. Like they're like, okay, we'll do this, and they don't give it a second thought.
I agree because I did see the story for Wanted Weapons of Fate, and I can tell you it is not as good as the movie or the comics. It's just basically like, oh, what will Wesley do if he's by himself after his father is dead? But now we're gonna also have these flashbacks where his father was on missions. And while that premise is cool, I think people said that was the only really good part of the story was playing as his dad. Playing as Wesley was kind of pointless.
Because I think everyone, I remember I played the game like last year. Actually, I'm staring at it right now. I remember there was the story, a little bit of the story was pretty much Wesley finds out that because I think for a while he didn't know like what exactly happened to his mother, and he heard conflicting stories. He heard that his dad ended up killing his mother because she was on the list, but then all of a sudden we find out later on it was actually someone else who basically killed her.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. That was like part of the story that I actually really did like. Me seeing both of them kick ass, hell yeah, I love that. But there's a lot of other things I didn't necessarily like. But
so anyone else before we move on?
Actually, I have to head out.
Well, get out of here, Bane. Outro yourself.
All right, it's been Bane. I'll be on the next podcast. Have a good one. Take it easy.
See ya.
Yeah.
All right, so question number that was perfect timing. Question number 10. Since the premise of movie tie-ins are coming back in the form of crossovers, VR, and mobile titles, how do you feel about the future of movie tie-ins gaining newfound recognition? For better or worse, I hope that this leads to better quality products. To me right now it kind of feels like they're being shoehorned into stuff. Like the Terminator stuff at E3 was kind of ridiculous. Like, oh, we got something in Gears and now we got something in I think it was Ghost Recon Breakpoint. So yeah, it's like I do want to see them come back, but I don't want to see the same slump as we did before where we're getting like low quality products.
I want effort put into movie tie-in games, to be honest. I mean, especially with the technology that we have, and pretty much newer things are being discovered pretty much almost every single day. I mean, it would be perfect to have a good movie tie-in, like or hell, even a TV show tie-in.
I think they tried that with Quantum Break.
Didn't they also try to do that with wasn't there a Sopranos game?
Yeah, there was, but I don't think it was any good.
It was the same thing for The Shield. There was a game based on The Shield, and people were like, ugh.
Oh, there was a game on 24. I forgot about that.
No,
But yeah, they could use TV as a basis if it's done right. I just think that they need to know, since games are bigger and better now, they need to have that same quality reflect as well, no matter what they're using.
I mean, when I was mentioning about like the TV show and everything, kind of like what they do with like movie tie-in, but have the game like tie into the TV show. So for example, let's just say let's just say a show that's like really popular right now.
Just dumb it down, make it simple, make a Daredevil game, goddamn it, based on the show.
Exactly. There we go. There we go. Marvel's Daredevil, right there.
Yeah, because they already
do that.
canceled they canceled several Daredevil games, and I think just the dark atmosphere will really work out well if they got a good developer to do it.
Ooh,
Stranger
I
Things
just
is
thought
on
of
where
something.
got Sorry, I interrupted.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. Holy shit! I just thought of something.
What is it?
What if you could actually balance out the life of a vigilante and lawyer, show up to court, and help to prove someone's innocent?
You know, that would be interesting. I keep thinking back to like the LA Noire shit of catching people in lies.
Exactly. That's
think
what I
that'd
had
be-
in mind.
Yeah, that'd be interesting if they did it like that, and at the same time you also got this crazy, combat beat 'em up mechanic where you beat people up as Matt Murdock and Daredevil at the same time. It's pretty cool.
Oh hell yeah.
If I'm aware, Stranger Things season 3 actually did get a video game tie-in, but it was more of a RPG beat 'em up, kind of akin to something like not Grab by the Ghoulies. I was thinking of Zombies. It kind of reminds me of Zombie Ate My Neighbors. So that's some approaches are interesting like that.
Yeah. So anyone else for question number 10? Going once, going twice. Sold to the hooker in red. All right, people, this is the end of this IAS podcast special. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time. We're going to do outros now. So you can find me on Twitter at RenOperative_. You can find me on YouTube at Renegade Operative. I will be uploading 2 discussions to the channel. This one and the one that Dom did with the backwards compatibility discussion. So I hope you enjoy that. Next up, Captain Chaos. Where can we find you?
You can find me on YouTube and Twitter, both Captain Chaos. You can also find me on DeviantArt as well. Upload some of my art there. I think as Captain Chaos Art. So, yep.
Sonic Kick?
YouTube Sonic Kick, Twitter Sonic Kick 2. There you go.
Bama Lama Ding Dong. The most
Yeah.
riveting name in here.
Yeah, you can either find me on Twitch at Bamalabadingdong or Twitter at Snozdwaddle, which is a different name. But I don't really use Twitter as much as I am on Twitch. So that's the place you're most likely to find me.
Cryo, what about you?
You can find me on Twitter and YouTube. The handles there are Cryo Gaming. And you can also find me on Twitch, which is pretty much the same thing as YouTube and Twitter handle, except with YT added at the end.
All right, so we're going to let you guys go. Hopefully all the people had a fun time watching this, and hopefully you take care. I don't know when the next podcast is going to be, but I'm going to retool the event planner today, so I'll keep you guys updated. So we're signing out. See you guys later out there in YouTube land. Peace out.
So,